London in 1680 does not begin with grandeur. It begins with memory. Step into the city and you are walking across absence, across streets that were once flame. 14 years earlier, in 1666, the Great Fire tore through London, devouring timber houses, markets, warehouses, churches. It moved faster than people could think, faster than water could reach, faster than order could hold. By the time it stopped, most of the medieval city inside the old Roman walls was gone. And yet, in 1680, London stands again, not as it was, but as something heavier. Brick replaces timber. Roof lines are sharper. Streets are cleaner in places, but still narrow, still crowded, still stubbornly medieval in their shape. There had been plans to rebuild London as a grand geometric city, with wide boulevards and rational order. Men like Christopher Wren imagined it, drew it, measured it. But London resisted property lines, ownership disputes, urgency, habit. All of it pulled the city back into its old form. Not perfect, not symmetrical, not ideal, but alive. Look up and you see rebuilding still in motion. Scaffolding clings to church towers, carpenters balance above the street, hauling beams into place. Masons shape stone that will outlive them. Everywhere there is the sense that London is not finished, that it is still assembling itself after catastrophe. At the centre of it all rises St. Paul's, or rather the beginning of it. The old cathedral had collapsed during the fire, its roof melting, its stones cracking under unbearable heat. Now, a new St. Paul's is being built under the direction of Christopher Wren. In 1680, it is still incomplete. Walls rising, plans shifting, the dome not yet imagined in its final form. But even unfinished, it dominates thought. It is not just a building, it is a statement. London will not remain broken. Around it, dozens of parish churches are being rebuilt, not as copies of what was lost, but as something new, more controlled, more deliberate. Each one marks a point where fire once erased everything and where people chose to begin again. And yet, if you walk these streets, you do not forget what was there before. Because beneath every new brick is ash. Turn toward the Thames and the city changes again. The river is crowded, not with elegance, but with purpose. Barges, ferries, cargo boats, all pushing through brown water thick with movement. Coal from the north, timber from the Baltic, wine from France, sugar from the Caribbean, tobacco from the colonies. Everything arrives here. Everything leaves here. At Billingsgate, fishmongers unload their catch before sunrise. At the wharves, labourers carry loads so heavy their bodies bend forward permanently. Rope, tar, sweat. The air is dense with work. And beneath it all, the smell. Rot, salt, smoke, waste. The Thames is not only a highway, it is also where London empties itself. Refuse, sewage, dead animals. All of it finds its way into the same water that carries wealth. Step away from the river and into a coffee house. Inside, the air is thick with talk. Men gather around small tables, cups in hand, newspapers spread open, pamphlets folded and refolded. Here, information moves faster than ships. News from Amsterdam, Paris, the American colonies, all arrives in fragments, in rumours, in letters passed between traders and politicians. A merchant leans over a ledger, calculating risk on a ship that has not yet reached port. A writer drafts a political argument that may be printed by evening. A broker listens carefully, saying little, absorbing everything. This is where modern finance begins to take shape. Not in palaces, but in rooms filled with conversation. And the conversations are dangerous, because London in 1680 is not politically stable. It is tense, suspicious, alive with accusation. The Popish plot, a supposed Catholic
Take
conspiracy to
heed,
kill
good
King
people.
Charles II,
The accused
has ignited
conspirators have
fear
confessed to
across
the
the
plot's
city.
most foul,
The
intended to set
accusations
the
are
city
false,
ablaze
but
once
they
more.
spread like
By the
fire.
king's authority, you
People
are
are
under
arrested,
arrest. No, wait,
executed.
this is a mistake.
Names are
I
whispered.
demand to know the charge.
Loyalty becomes something that must be
I
performed,
tell you, the king's
not
policies
assumed.
will ruin the trade. You speak
In these
treason,
rooms,
sir.
a
The
wrong
Duke's
word
patrols
can
are
follow
everywhere.
you.
We must
A
consider the
silence can
consequences of
condemn you.
inaction.
But not all danger is spoken. When daylight fades, another London emerges. In narrow alleys near Cheapside and Fleet Street, shadows move with purpose. Pickpockets slip through crowds with practiced hands, cutting purses without breaking stride. A man presses too close, fingers quick, and then he is gone. At the edge of the
How long
city,
do we wait?
gangs gather in
Until the
taverns
tide
and
turns
along the
or the watch
docks.
changes.
Not
Whichever
armies,
comes first.
not organized forces, just men who have learned how to survive between the cracks of law. They watch, they wait. A merchant leaves a coffee house too late. A sailor carries coin after a voyage. A deal turns wrong. Steel flashes briefly and then disappears again into darkness. Violence here is not dramatic, it is quiet, close, immediate. A body lies in a narrow lane at dawn, face turned toward the wall. The street moves around it. Someone steps over it, someone looks away. London does not stop. A watchman walks his route at night,
12
lantern
by the clock,
swinging, staff
and
in
all
hand.
is well.
He calls the
God
hour,
give ye good
voice
night.
steady, but his pace is quick. He knows the streets better than most. He also knows they do not belong to him. Now, return to the crowd. The city is full, not with order, but with pressure. London is growing rapidly. People arrive from the countryside, from Ireland, from Europe,
Fine linen,
drawn by work,
ribbons and lace.
by trade, by the possibility of
Make
something
way
more.
for the coach.
But the city does not expand gently. It compresses. Rooms are crowded. Alleys narrow. Air thickens. In one doorway, a child sits curled against the wall, knees pulled to his chest, watching passers-by without
Look what
being
you've done,
seen.
boy. That steel dulls
In
with every
another,
knock.
a
Are you
craftsman
trying to
grips an
ruin me?
apprentice by the
Pick it up.
shoulder,
Now.
shaking him hard for a mistake that cannot be afforded. Further down the street, a woman carries water up 3 flights of stairs. A butcher wipes blood from his hands. A printer's apprentice lifts freshly inked pages that will carry ideas across the city before nightfall. These lives are not recorded in official history, but they are the city. A doctor
Make way for
passes,
the physician.
carrying
Steady now,
instruments
don't
that
cross his
offer more
path.
hope than certainty. Disease still moves easily here. The plague of 1665 is not forgotten. People remember the carts, the bells, the doors marked with warning signs. Fear lingers. Sometimes it comes from memory, sometimes from rumour, and sometimes from footsteps behind you that do not stop when you stop. London in this moment is not one thing. It is theatre and
Hot
execution,
pies. Get your
science
savoury
and
mutton
superstition,
and beef pies here.
wealth
Freshly
and hunger,
baked.
expansion and memory. In
Is
the
this
evening,
the recompense
theatres
for
fill
all
again,
my toil?
reopened
To
after
be
years
thus
of silence.
scorned before the very
Actors
pit?
perform before crowds hungry for
Lord,
spectacle.
accept my spirit.
Laughter rises into the
and
night.
forgive those who
Not
have
far
wronged me.
away, a public execution gathers its own audience. The crowd watches with the same attention, the same stillness, the same need to see. Elsewhere, in a quiet room, members of the Royal Society conduct experiments. Air pumps, lenses, careful notes. A new way of understanding the world is forming, one that relies on observation rather than belief. And yet, just outside that room, a woman ties a charm around her child's wrist to keep sickness away. Both are real. Both are London. Now move forward. Stand in the same place today. Glass towers rise where timber once burned. The Thames still moves, cleaner now, but still carrying everything that passes through it. St. Paul's stands complete, its dome dominating the skyline, the answer to fire made permanent in stone. Walk the streets, and you are still following old paths. They curve where medieval roads curved. They narrow where
Look at the
rebuilding
depth
could
here. We're
not
well
erase
past
what
the
came
Victorian
before.
layer now.
Yes,
Beneath
the
modern
structural supports
foundations,
need to go
layers
deeper
remain.
to secure the medieval
Roman,
stonework.
medieval, burned, rebuilt. The city did not erase its past. It built on top of it. London in 1680 matters not because it was perfect, but because it endured, because it rebuilt without becoming something entirely new, because it carried memory forward instead of abandoning it, because it allowed contradiction to exist, wealth beside poverty, reason beside fear, progress beside violence, because it became something heavier than a city. If you stand in London now, you are standing in that weight. The fire is gone. The plague is gone. The danger has changed its shape. But the feeling remains, in the way the streets bend, in the way the buildings rise, in the quiet spaces between noise. A city can burn. It can fall. It can rebuild. But it never becomes empty again. It carries everything with it. And that is what makes it endure.